Husband cheated while I was pregnant and now wants an open relationship. Husband started seeing someone while I was pregnant, left me in the hospital to sleep with her, pushed me for an open relationship, continues to prioritize himself by doing the near minimum for our child, and now is angry when I'm still upset. Unsure how to proceed with newborn and custody concerns. My husband and I have been together since we were teenagers. We've had our ups and downs, but after some marriage counseling and what I thought was a pretty positive pandemic quarantine together, we decided to try for a baby. I had specifically asked him if he was happy and content or if he had lingering concerns, as I wanted to wait until he was certain. We previously had issues that primarily stemmed from my lower libido and his lack of participation for household responsibilities. We had previously had some arguments that summed up to him telling me he found me unattractive due to my lack of passion and weight and too much focus on my career. Apparently my resultant lessened desire to have sex was both shocking and incomprehensible and led him to seek out attention elsewhere. In hindsight, this should have been the end, but he swore it was nothing more than some flirty texts. Newsflash, the sunk cost fallacy only leads to you drowning and having your boat at the bottom of the ocean. Fast forward a matter of weeks and I was pregnant. During my pregnancy he was largely detached and unsupportive. He didn't understand or seem to care about anything baby related or tried to help with pregnancy complications. He seemed irritated for certain things, like I was no longer able to do the litter box or couldn't handle the smell of cooking meat, so we ordered out a ton. I wrote those off as general nerves and that he's never been a very empathetic person. He also is a very active person, so he is out 3 to 5 days a week participating in activities. He started attending one group that had a large number of women in the spring. Fast forward to my 3rd trimester. We planned a short baby moon as we were both vaccinated and the doctor cleared me for travel. The trip went really well and we had a great time. About a week after we got back he told me he was very happy and he'd never been more content, and brought up the idea of an open relationship. He told me he didn't have anyone in mind but knew that I'd be unable/not wanting to have sex, and that would allow him to explore a different connection to satisfy his higher libido. Apparently that 6-week recovery window was a deal breaker. The next week I was diagnosed with preeclampsia and was put on strict bed rest with orders to reduce my stress. Shockingly, the hanging out late with women and wanting an open relationship did not in fact help my stress levels. I had to cancel my first trip home in almost 2 years and would be video calling into my baby shower. And because the universe wanted to keep the punches rolling, a few days later, my father unexpectedly passed away. He was very young and my family is very close. Obviously the stress did not help. My family members did fly down to see me and help out some, and my husband was very supportive and caring for a few days, but then seemed to be worn out from my grief and even a bit annoyed when I rejected him initiating sex. However, about a week later I was admitted to the hospital and my symptoms quickly became more severe. The night before I was admitted my husband left suddenly to hang out with friends and was out until bar time. My husband was dismissive and irritated that he had to stay in the hospital as it was boring and uncomfortable. The following day he left to go home but disappeared for hours. My sister, who had swapped places to sit with me, was certain he had crashed his car, but it turns out he was heading to AP's house to hash out the boundaries of their affair and to have sex. He begrudgingly did return later with a flimsy excuse. The next day he continued on with our previous plans to have a barbecue and even invited AP and her spouse to our home. My vitals turned and he had to return to the hospital, and the next morning the induction began. He spent most of the time ignoring me, on his phone or sleeping. Thankfully my mother was there to support me. My vitals dropped more, and due to my lungs beginning to fill with fluids an immediate C-section was prepped, and an hour later the baby arrived, very premature, tiny, but healthy. After a bit of time in the recovery room, my husband left and I was alone after a very traumatic birth, unable to go see my baby in the NICU and reeling from how unsupportive my partner of over a decade had been. My mother ended up coming back to stay the night with me. For the rest of my week's stay, lengthier due to complications, he hardly visited without begging. I remember breaking down in tears asking where was he, why wasn't he there? I was able to see the baby briefly the next day and my sister came to stay. She spent almost her entire birthday in the hospital with me because my husband was busy working. Instead of rushing in when we could finally hold our daughter, he waited 3 hours so he could sleep with AP. He even made my discharge uncomfortable enough that the lead nurse chastised him. The day of my discharge, he dropped me off and left. He didn't return until late that night when I confronted him. He admitted to the affair and told me he wanted an open relationship. He almost never visited our baby in the NICU and basically had to be prompted to do so. He was very rude about my restrictions from surgery and unhelpful. He even spent most of our anniversary with AP and would have completely ignored me all day despite platitudes how he loves me and wants to stay together. Since that time baby has come home, he is short and irritable with her. He continues to see AP, but she's crazy, lies and has ghosted him now. I'm so glad that his soul connection lasted so long. I am so afraid to divorce and lose my house, my ability to have my child with me all the time, and lose part of my retirement/income to child support. I don't trust him to care for her properly given his behavior, and I can't risk him having shared custody visits. He can't handle 15 seconds of crying and can't dress her. 2 days after AP ghosted him, he lied more and when confronted said he met someone else so he was texted that person instead of comforting the baby properly. He clearly is more interested in getting his dick wet than his family. I'm just so done. I don't care about anything but giving my child a stable healthy life and my pets. I hate him for waiting until I was pregnant to pull this crap. I hate him for being too weak to leave and forcing me to do the work. I don't know how to proceed. My husband cheated on me. I know I need to divorce him because he won't change, but I'm really struggling with that because I actually love him, even though I know it needs to be done. This is going to be long, I apologize in advance. We've had issues in the past of him talking to different women when it's just not appropriate. Things like hiding his phone and texts, only answering texts when I'm asleep, talking to another woman for hours whenever he wasn't with me. I've confronted him in the past but never had real proof beyond my suspicions and phone records of him talking to someone, which I personally take as cheating when you're talking to someone more than you talk to your wife. Since then he took me off the Verizon account so I can't look at his records, which I never did until my gut told me to, and I was proved right. We went to counseling for a short while and that seemed to help, me at least. He told me it didn't help him at all, which is funny because he's the one who needs all the counseling, but getting him to go was like pulling teeth and he stopped going. Going to marriage counseling alone doesn't do much. Fast forward to yesterday, I lost my debit card and went to the bank to order a new card and wanted to make sure no one used mine because I lost it. Going through the transactions and there's one on Friday, after he supposedly went to do physical recovery stuff, at a Mexican place for $70 at 1:30 p. I texted him at 2:15, just saying hey love you. He didn't respond for 45 minutes then said, hey love you too baby, I'm about to head home. You want anything? I'm going to get food from somewhere not sure where then said he was going to get Mexican food. He got food on his way home, brought us food home from a different Mexican place, about 15 minutes from the first one. Yet, he checked out at the first place 2 hours before checking out at the second place, clearly doing something during that time. At the time I didn't think anything of it because he never mentioned going anywhere after recovery. So yesterday when I get home from the bank, I asked him about the charge and I was like, did you go there? No, you sure? 'Cause it's your card not mine. Then he goes, no I didn't. I'm just like, well that's weird BC, it's your card and you have had your card and that's very expensive for one person. He goes, well I drank. I'm like, so you did go then? I don't remember. I was like, well you just said it was so expensive because you drank. And I was like, why were you hungry if you just ate? He goes, I just was. And then he began to gaslight me with the bullshit, why are you being like this? Becoming immediately defensive with a pinch of strong amnesia when I first asked him. I just walked out. Then he immediately comes down and starts doing the dishes, which he never does, and starts asking me all these over-the-top nice questions which he rarely does. So I went up to the restaurant and the waitress was very kind and I basically told her my husband was here and I'm trying to figure out who he was with because I think he's cheating. She didn't remember him but told me to come back today to talk to her manager. So I meet with the manager today. She was amazing and pulled up the exact receipt and showed that there was 2 people there who drink multiple margaritas and also took shots together before leaving. She is working on getting me the security footage. I come home today and confront him again. He get this stupid ass look on his face because he knows he's fucked. And when I ask her name, he won't tell me. God, this makes me so angry to even type this. Tells me he doesn't want me to harass her. Tells me it's just some random girl he just met. Then later it turned into they have been talking for a few weeks. Supposedly this is the first time they've gone out. Bullshit. And a whole lot more bullshit. I'm 29 and really struggling. We've been married 5 years and he thinks we're just going to stay married and all will be well, with his solution to fixing it is for him to just be honest piece of shit. I know I need to leave him. He won't change. But I truly love him and I'm just really struggling with the fact that I've wasted 7 years of my life with a man who is such a piece of shit. I'm worth so much more and deserve so much better. This would be so much easier if I just married him for his money. Just any advice from women who got divorced young or old. Anything. I don't have any friends here because I moved across the country to be with him and need some women support. Edit, this is the best sub, I'm so glad I found it. I have yet to sleep in 36 hours and am just now going to try to get through these comments. All of y'all are the family and friends I don't have here, and I'm crying tears of gratefulness that you all have taken the time out to give me such amazing wisdom and advice. Thank you for not judging me, but also thank you for being brutally honest. I know the right move, it's just difficult, which I guess is normal. Oh, and by the way, I've scheduled an STD check. I've been 100% faithful in our marriage, not even talking to anyone at all, ever, not even close, so I'll know if he gave me something. I really wish I could hug you all. I really need a friend and a loving embrace, and the only person here to give me that. I don't want to touch me. Maybe I'll buy a hug sweater and tie the arms around the back.